camera rolling, take, or action, what do you say? So we're gonna take this opportunity to walk through the Premier version. Just keep in mind that all the things Dave talked about relative to US Foods and US Food Services apply to either program. So probably won't be as many questions, but an unprecedented value of 3, US Communities, Premier, and US Foods. So if you think about this, the lead agency in this case is US Communities, which is a government purchasing alliance. Premier is the GPO, and US Foods is the distributor piece. So kind of the same thing we talked about earlier, but with US Communities taking the place of, what is it?
National IPA.
National IPA. So we're gonna walk through the details of the Premier contract. So who is Premier? They're a group purchasing organization. They will tell you that they're the largest in existence. So they have over $4 billion in food purchases, which I think the busiest slide was 2, I think. So bigger on the food side. Premier is US Foods' largest customer in existence. So you're talking about Premier and Vizient are the top 2 customers for US Foods in the country. So they're both very great partners of ours. They are a leading food service program in the industry. We have regional support, much like Vizient, with Bob Parker and Stacy Lofton. They actually work for Premier and are available to help out in any way needed. Again, no processing or membership fees. Participation is voluntary, so it's free to join. There are no real strict requirements to be part of it, and there's no fee. So the key with Premier is their CMAs, or their committed manufacturer agreements. So they, US Foods is the sole source provider for Premier. We just inked a 3-year extension with Premier that takes us through the middle of 2020. We have been their sole source partner since the mid-1990s. I can tell you in the Lake Erie area that by far our largest customer, close to $150 million a year, flow through Premier and US Foods just between Cleveland and Detroit. So a very, very large customer. And given that, we really do stock almost all the CMAs that are necessary for the program. So there shouldn't be any gaps in product. And if there are, like Dave said, it's only 3 cases a week to bring something in we don't already have. So it's a collaborative partnership between US Foods and Premier. Proven track record of driving savings. I'm not gonna throw out 20%, like Vizient did. That's a pretty high number. I mean, that's if you walk into a customer that's not using any type of purchasing program, we can drive those types of savings. But you have the market basket, and you can do your own kind of homework on, where the program would be versus your current program. But we're confident that it would drive significant savings. Technology really, I think, is our biggest advantage over our competitors, and also with Premier. So they have a whole series of programs. Choice 365 is their menu program. It's free. They have the same type of kind of plug and play concepts we talked about earlier, whether it's burgers or Mexican or pizza, those types of things. And a lot of things around member education and communication. We just hosted a Premier regional meeting last week. We hosted one in Detroit and one in Cleveland, where they bring all their members together and do a whole day on education, talking about new contract awards, doing some roundtables as far as working together, group networking, those types of things.
And they offer CEU credits when they have those meetings, as well as like guest speakers and such on relative topics to support their members.
And they did have the vegetarian offerings, which was very interesting, and they also had the different soy milks and almond milks and all that, and then they had a coffee frother, that would be just that was non-dairy, so for our lactose.
So they do have the most comprehensive program in the industry. They have over 285 agreements just in the food service piece, over 55,000 products and 90 different categories. We're seeing our members that are part of Premier, their spend just within the CMAs at this point, between 80 and 90% of the spend is covered by the CMAs, which is really, really high. The big thing is they go directly to the manufacturers to negotiate deviations. We see on average about 16 to 20% off invoice that reduces our costs, which is a huge number. And then of course the markup is taken from there. The members really drive the contracts. There's a food service subcommittee. We have a member here in the Michigan market, Julie Kerrigan from Henry Ford, that sits on that committee, and they look at all the products. They also have a separate committee for education, and they have, they each vote on all the new contracts, including our contract, which just got renewed, but all the different CMA contracts. And each of those is signed and agreed to for 3 years. We already talked about being the largest customer Premier is of US Foods, and they believe they have the best value through the very competitive market structure, which we're gonna get into the contract details. So, talk a little bit about US Communities. They're the government purchasing alliance that takes care of the bid requirements, okay, just much like we talked about earlier. Operates on the same principles as local and regional co-ops, national structure to aggregate collective purchasing, and nonprofit, and they are the lead agency in this case. So K through 12, you can see the other the segments that qualify. So the K through 12 public or private school requirements are met through the Washington County Public Schools. And then the other concepts are through North Carolina State University.
So from an RFP process, this checks the box again in compliance. But this particular program is governed under that Washington County Public Schools, but it does comply with all the regulatory requirements for an RFP process. So this is another example of where if you brought in US Communities Premier, that RFP process is governed under, in this case, the WCPS.
So it'd be like your Manus. Okay.
As far as US Communities, it's very easy to register online, it's free, there's no type of user fees. They tout that they have the best overall government agency pricing in existence, and you combine that with Premier, it truly is a very powerful way to go to market and satisfy your needs from an RFP and bid standpoint. So solicitations are run by a lead public agency named LPA. They evaluate and make the awards. Contracts are held and managed day-to-day by LPA in conjunction with Premier. So get into the kind of the meat and potatoes of the actual markup schedule. Under this program, I think almost all of your facilities would be between that $350 to $2,500 drop size, and it's simply a $1.96 per case markup from cost. So very, very competitive program. If you do have facilities that stretch beyond that to 2,500 to 3,000 and beyond, the fee per case does drop slightly because that's based on volume. Certainly creates efficiencies for us and for Premier. Now I don't know, was the 25 cent a case addressed in this at all?
25 cents on your market basket, but not the schedule. It's on your, you'll see that 25 cents plus $1.96, they took the worst case scenario and they added that, and you'll see it down on the column on there.
So you're saying it's included in the Premier pricing,
Premier did
but
that
not in
because,
but not in the Vizient pricing?
they did that because I think of the different categories, and I'm not really sure, it's just what their governing thing is. And it calls it out on the market basket.
Right, it
RP.
was noted on there. But, again, because we didn't, we weren't, involved with the responses, they just both chose to do it a little bit differently. But yes, it is represented in the market basket, but it's not represented here.
So that's something they need to consider when they're comparing the two.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, and we definitely wanted to call that out, in person.
There are
What's considered a supply? It says equipment and supply products. What is
Oh, that's like your, they consider paper goods supplies, like, what.
But this is
Oh.
also, this is only supplies over $100, so like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you buy blenders, or you buy some pans, pots, dishware, those types of things, those actually go to a markup schedule as a percent. So that's only on your bigger items, over $100.
So like if you buy an oven,
So it
you're
would be
not gonna
mostly the
get
things that
marked
are
up
contained in our
$1.96.
equipment catalog.
Yeah,
Anything over $100 wouldn't be $1.96 a case, it would be a percent markup, which I'm sure is addressed in
the RFP response.
the RFP response. There's some additional incentives we're gonna talk about. The big one being the new business incentive, so it's a one-time incentive. This one is based on first 26 weeks of purchases, although we can pick the point in time where we start the incentive. So I'm sure with Spark, that would be probably sometime in late August or mid-August when you start taking your big orders. So with whatever week we decide with you to implement it, we would track your purchases starting that week for the next 26 weeks. So we can capture the majority of your $8 million in spend, right, if we went from mid-August till whatever it is, mid-March, six months.
And we determine with the consortium when that starts, you know, in terms of the timeframe. So if it was awarded, it might be starting later, obviously it could be July 1st, August 1st, but the 26-week timeframe is, you know.
So we estimated the incentive to be between 80 and 120,000. If you bought $6 million of your 8 million between the middle of August to 6 months out, and then it would, 2% would be paid based on that 6 million, which could be as much as 120,000.
No, well said.
And again, it'll go to the individual school.
So, I'm lost here.
Okay.
When you back up a slide, that chart that you showed, what products are those for? Because we have a commercial price for line item
Those,
delivered.
those are, we put $1.96, right? So,
No, you've got.
plus a quarter.
$2.21, okay, so $2.21 for everything.
Right, so if you have it's much like the last one. If you have a large school district that's taking deliveries at $3,000, they get an extra incentive and only have to pay $1.78, just because they're making less stops.
Okay. Is that
So-
in this?
Yes,
somewhere? I couldn't find it, I was trying to find it real fast, see if I could read it in.
so $1.96 is the worst case scenario. We, on
Plus
the
the-
quarterly,
plus the
we
25.
true up
Right.
with the, school district